All right, welcome to Strider Tree Gear. This one's for you guys who like the hitch cords. Today we're talking about the Notch Fusion Tether. It is the conversion device that allows you to use your hitch cord in single rope configuration. And I've been playing with it quite a bit over the last few weeks. Thank you, Nick Bonner from Tree Stuff, for sending it to me to play with. And I've got some feedback for you all, so hopefully you guys will find this interesting. So a few of the things I really like about this device can only really be described in comparison to another device that you would be using instead of it, right? So this is an adaptation to the old rope wrench tether, which I've got set up here. So here I've got what has been my classic hitch cord rope wrench tether setup. This works well, right? You move this slides fairly easily down, it binds fairly consistently. I can release the hitch by pulling on the top of the hitch, or if I want to be really smooth about it because I'm limb walking or something, I can collapse the rope wrench. So you can see I can collapse the rope wrench and use the rope wrench itself to slide the whole thing down so it goes really easy. And of course I can tend by pulling slack out the bottom, and the pulley tends the hitch. That's basically how this functions. That's basically how this functions. They're really similar. This one's got a little tether point right here to attach to my chest harness when I'm climbing up and down. This one's got a few different tether points, so I can attach here, 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 wherever. I've actually found that these 2 points aren't quite wide enough for my little Rock Exotica carabiner, like the small ones that I use. So I really only ever use the bottom one anyway, because I like to keep it nice and tight. It holds my harness up a little higher, holds my bridge up a little higher to where I can use it, and it is less sit back. So, why it's different, some of the positives about this particular device, I've noticed that it seems to have less sit back. I don't know if that's just the feel or if that's actually the case. There shouldn't be much difference, but something about the stiffness of the tether, even compared to this tether, makes it feel immediate. When I sit down in that, it grabs immediately. The other thing I really like about this setup is that because of the way there's this big pulley section right here, the way this carabiner fits on, I find that my carabiner doesn't tend to reorient itself, right? So this is how this is assembled. It's really easy. You're not going to lose a pulley or drop it in the tree. You put those two ends of your eye and eye press stick on there, push your carabiner through, and then I actually like to clip the carabiner directly to my saddle, directly to my harness, or the bridge on my harness. And what that does is, because my bridge goes left and right, it goes right through the middle here, and it keeps this whole system oriented this way. And because I generally tend right-handed, that makes that easy. If you wanted it to be oriented away from you, then you could clip it to the ring on your harness, or your saddle, your bridge, or whatever, and then you could tend it either way, or if you're a left-handed tender, you can orient it this way. But I like to attach it directly to my bridge. It keeps things nice and compact, and I generally tend with my right hand, and so this is how I like to have it. Works beautifully. This is an especially rigid tether. Compared to this rope tether that's been stiffened up, it's got a lot less play and movement. And so what I find is that the rope wrench tends to grab a little more consistently, probably because it's spring-loaded. It's actually spring-loaded up, a lot like the Rion Rounds tether. But it's also all solidly one piece right to the carabiner, which gets pulled when I move up and down. When I'm on this guy, the carabiner's got a lot of swivel to it, and sometimes I find that it likes to work itself sideways, and it does that a little bit more easily than on this tether for some reason. I couldn't say why exactly, but that's what I've found. Also, because of this kink right here, sometimes I have to advance this by hand, but grabbing it, and it's a little bit less cooperative when it comes to sliding itself up and down the rope. It's hard to demonstrate. It makes more sense when you feel it in the tree, but it's just so much more responsive. And then, of course, this is a nice, comfy, ergonomic handle to grab onto, whereas this feels a little looser, feels a little sloppier, and so I'm a little less inclined to do that. Also, this setup lacks the spring. So that's kind of the main comparison. If you're making a transition over from one of these setups, you'll find it is a little more responsive, it's a little bit more rigid, it tends a little bit smoother, a little bit more easily. You're less likely to drop pieces in the tree if you're going to rearrange your setup. So there's definitely some key advantages. As far as the disadvantages go, It's mainly about the cost. Now, this setup here, and I'm gonna recite these off the top of my head, so hopefully we'll get them kind of close. But these pulleys are somewhere around $60. This rope wrench, which you'll need here as well, is 140 bucks. The tether's right around $40. So you're looking at 250 bucks plus carabiner and hitch cord for this setup. This setup here, the notch tether is about 140 bucks. The rope wrench itself is another 140 bucks. And so that brings your total to 280 plus hitch cord and carabiner. So it's a little bit more expensive potentially having this setup than having this setup. Not a whole lot, not enough to where I would pass up the advantages for the cost. If you haven't already set yourself up on SRT using this system, I would definitely go with something like this if you're dead set on using hitch cords. So if you're not wanting to explore the mechanicals, you think they're too risky for whatever reason, I totally respect that, and you like the hitch cord, I definitely would recommend spending just a couple extra bucks for the notch tether rather than this one. Now, here's where things get a little bit complicated. If you've already got a device like the Zigzag, right? Many of you guys do. This device has been around a long time. It's a great moving rope device. The chicane is the Petzl version of the stiffy tether and the rope wrench. There's a few things I really don't like about the chicane. I would actually generally prefer to use a standard tether with my Zigzag. And unfortunately, you can't use the notch tether with your Zigzag. So if you've already got the Zigzag, it might make more sense to get a tether more like this or like Rion Rounds. Rion Rounds has a great tether. I'll put a link in the description below. It's rigid aluminum like this, it's spring loaded, but it can also fit around your Petzl Zigzag. So keep that in mind. Last of all, if you've already made your transition to mechanicals, you don't often use the hitch cord, none of those devices are gonna make much sense to you. The one I like to go to again and again is the old Rope Runner Pro. I find that this device, because it can be used single rope or moving rope just as well, it doesn't seem to be too picky about the ropes I put through it. It only gets slightly more gummied up if I have a nice sappy rope. It tolerates it fairly well. This is a great all-around device. So if you're just getting into climbing and you haven't already set yourself up yet, and you're only gonna get one, this is a good way to spend the money. I think it's a little over $300. It costs a little bit more than either of these setups. It costs less than the whole Petzl setup, but this is a good way to go. Practice low and slow with it, make sure it's dialed for your rope. It's not as smooth or consistent as the Zigzag for a beginner, but it works beautifully. Another key consideration with your climb system is length. I find that the longer, more cumbersome climb systems I just find to be more annoying when I'm climbing around the tree. I like it to be close to me, short, compact, as much as possible. And when assessing that, you can see that the notch Fusion Tether from top to bottom, where it connects to the bridge to the top, is right around 14 inches. The Rope Runner Pro is just shy of 12. A standard hitch climber setup here, assuming you attach it the same way as the Fusion Tether, is almost just shy of 16 inches, a little bit longer. And then down here at the bottom, you've got the whole Petzl chicane setup, and it's almost 18 inches long. So that brings me also to the key point of my biggest issue with this setup, is the fact that when I'm trying to release tension on a rope, or I'm trying to belay down a rope, or do especially on like a limb walk where I'm really having trouble balancing and I want it nice and slack, if I just release the Petzl, this grabs and I need to put a lot of weight into moving it. But if I try and do it smoothly by pulling this down, I can't reach the top of the Zigzag to also collapse it at the same time. It's super annoying. Even with this rope setup, I can collapse the top of the rope wrench and slide the whole thing down real easy. Same with this. I can collapse the top of that, I can slide it down, no problem. if I'm trying to get slack and work on this, I either have to sort of do this whole setup, which is annoying, or I've got to actually take it out of that, and then I can manipulate it by just using the zigzag. So another reason why you might consider one of these other setups over the zigzag if you're already comfortable climbing on hitches or on other hardware. Another cool advantage of this particular device is that this support here, the riser on the tether, is really rigid. It is solid aluminum. And so I find that when I'm climbing through an awkward canopy and I've got to manipulate my rope over a union or around a branch, some of these other setups feel sketchy to me as I'm bending them. So for example, this Petzl Zigzag, if I'm coming over the top of a union, sometimes things get kinked like this, and you can even see how there's a little bit of flex and play in that. These links are really weak side-loaded. I think this union, this connection point right here is weak side-loaded, and it feels like I might accidentally break it in the tree as I'm maneuvering myself around. I don't like that. I don't feel that way with this at all. The only part that has movement is past this pulley here and past this here. Everything else is really solidly built. And the way that this carabiner fits in this opening is not tightly restricted like the way this carabiner is restricted. And so I can't get leverage on the carabiner to tweak it. It has the ability to slide. It generally doesn't, but it has the ability to move out of the way of a weird torque. And then, of course, this support is actually quite solid. So I like that about this particular device. So thanks again, Tree Stuff, for sending this out to me. It's been fun. I'll probably keep using it. My other climber who likes climbing hitch cord, he just got one. He loves it too. It's gonna be a good piece of kit for the future. I'm not a frequent user of hitch cords because of how much we've always got sap, but if you like them, it's a great device, great piece of kit, good and sturdy. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. That was my review of the Notch Fusion Tether. If you like this content, please subscribe, hit the little notification bell, and I'd love to have your feedback in the comments. And if you really want to support me, you can use the Amazon links that I've got in the description. Those are really helpful. Or you can sign up on Patreon. And I'm very thankful for the folks there who have been faithfully giving. So thanks again. Climb safe out there, folks, and I'll catch you next time.